Boa tarde. Espero que você tenha uma ótimo dia. This is your man Larry, the American Brazilian. Listen, I wanted to get on really quick and make a video about dating a Latina or dating in a Latin country. I'll put it that way. You can kind of choose whichever might be applicable to you. And when I say Latin or Latina, if either one of those are not necessarily what you're into, then you can just replace that with Asian or African or whatever you're into. And I know typically when people talk about dating, they cover the usual things like what to look for and what not to look for, which are all very important. For instance, when you're attempting to become acquainted with someone, how do you go about doing it? Well, there are a lot of online resources. You know, Cupid, they have Dominican Cupid, Brazilian Cupid, Colombian, they have all of that. And some people have found success in that. The first person that I dated from Brazil, we met on Brazilian Cupid, and it was a great relationship. Things didn't work out, not because of anything other than we realized that if things were going to go to the next level, then her daughter, whom we I actually loved, she's a sweet young lady, would not be able to make the trip, and that would kind of create dissension in the beginning of something. So in other words, it would you start with problems, and that we both amicably, the word that I'll struggle with today, amicably agreed that it was probably not the best move. So it didn't happen, but it was a pleasurable experience. No issues as far as weirdness or anything like that. And there are a lot of people that I have recommended that to who have found found it to be a pretty credible source. But I mean, as with any dating resource, you do have people that you meet, of course, if somebody and that's with anything. You meet them and they say, well, hey, you contacted me on my birthday, or hey, my cell phone broke. My rule of thumb is anytime somebody brings up money, either directly or indirectly, it's probably not a good candidate. Not that they're bad people, but they're probably not good for you. So that's one thing that people that talk about. Another thing is when you go to these countries, what do you do? Do you lie to people just to have an experience, an intimate experience with them? And there are some people who promote that. Me, I'm against that, because I think you put yourself, you inadvertently put yourself in a very, very precarious situation, a very bad situation where you can potentially be harmed. Why? Because just like you have people that care about you and your well-being, these people that you might look at as conquests, they have people who love and care about their well-being and their happiness. And so if you lie to somebody and pretend that you're into them just so you can get into their pants, and then you decide to stay in the country and kind of brush them off, they have people that love them, and they probably won't take too kindly to that. And again, you can put yourself in a very, very bad situation. So I would suggest that you don't do that. Another thing people do is they go and they say, well, you know what? Hey, I'm not really about the relationship. I want to get into the pay for play thing. And I strongly suggest that you don't enter that realm, because I think that you increase the risk of something potentially bad happening to you by more than half. Because it's one of those situations where it's no Deus jogador, Deus joga. What do I mean by that? Don't hate the player, hate the game. And then when you're playing that game, it's you're rolling the dice, and you're doing it with your life, and it's a zero-sum game. So because you have some people that even in some of these countries, although it's legal, you have some people who say, well, I'll go to this place, and it's organized, it's controlled, and you can do that. But again, I don't make that suggestion. I don't give that suggestion to anyone, because I think that it's a very slippery slope, and you don't want to be a sex tourist. You don't want to do that, man. It's just, you know, I suggest that you meet people organically, you know, and you can do that online. You can do that through, you know, different avenues that are safe. But as far as, you know, just saying, you know what, I want to skip all of that, I want to do this, you can do what you want to do. But you have to know that if you enter into that realm, I'll say it that way, then there are a lot of wolves in that realm, and you might get bit, and you might not come back the same way you left, or you might not come back. I digress. But the most important thing I want to talk about, and those were just a little some variables that a lot of people talk about, me included. I've talked to different ones. But over the course of the last few months, there's a couple of guys that I've spoken with. And one thing that I suggested to them was something that, you know, I don't hear often. It's not that I've not heard it. It's just that I don't hear it often. And what's that? Women are the draw, but the culture is the key. What do I mean by that? Sometimes if you find out what place in the world that speaks to you, what connects to you, like where do you feel alive? Where do you feel that sense of peace and almost euphoria? Where is your happy place in the world? Oftentimes, once you discover these places, and when you make the sacrifices and actually visit these places, and if it's confirmed that this place in fact is where I want to be, then you'll find that a whole treasure trove of goodness, you know, will be discovered by you. And a lot of times, like, so if you're that person and you're saying, well, man, you know, I'd like to be in a relationship, that would be cool, but then I'd like to, you know, maybe live abroad or do something different. Oftentimes where we are right now, when we're not experiencing those things that we desire, it's because oftentimes we're not where we should be. You know, I've heard it said that we don't have what we need because we're not where it is. I'll say it again. We don't have what we need, or we don't have what we want because we're not where what we want and where we need what we need. We're not where it is or where they are. And once you discover that, then you'll find that, man, life is so much simpler. It's so much easier. Now, for some people, that's not practical. Some people, they just, for whatever reason, either they can't or unwilling to even consider relocating, let alone visiting somewhere. And for those people, I would suggest, if you still want that sense of being in another community, there are foreign communities that are here in America. Now, you'll definitely get a good dose of their home country, but of course, nothing is more authentic than actually having boots on the ground in those specific locations or those specific countries. So I'll just say that, you know, if this applies to you, find out what country speaks to you. For me, it was Brazil. I mean, I had looked at Costa Rica, I had looked at the Dominican Republic, I had looked at Colombia, I had looked at different other places, but everywhere that I looked at said, before you go to Brazil, come here, or before you go to Brazil, go there. And that always stuck out as odd to me, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're making it appear as if Brazil is like this pinnacle. And so over the course of 5 months, the more that I researched and the more that I learned and discovered about Brazil, the more that I realized that's where I think I want to be. And I'll say this on a side note, as a black man, you know, we're always told that you know, going to Africa, you know, you get that sense of euphoria. It's almost like this spiritual connection that you have once you enter into the country, well, on the continent, I'll say it that way. And for me, when I visited, I mean, I enjoyed myself. The people were friendly. It was just scenic views, very beautiful. Food was delicious. Everything was good, but I didn't have that connection in Africa or on the continent of Africa like I did in South America, in Brazil. When I got to Brazil, when I visited Brazil, it only confirmed things that was happening in my heart, you know, about being connected with that country. And believe it or not, once I got there, you know, being, you know, being acquainted with someone, I realized that I'm so glad that I'm connected to this place, because if things don't work out, which they didn't, then now now it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to just, well, okay, I go to another place. I go to another place. When I got there, my connection had really nothing to do with the person. And I didn't realize that until about, say, a day or so later. And I was like, man, I like the peace and the tranquility that I'm experiencing in this place is just mind-blowing. So I tell people all the time, if you find out what area of the world that speaks to you, you might be surprised that the very things that you're looking for in any and every area of your life may be in those locations. So it's not hidden, you're just not there. And even until you get there, if you say, well, you know what, I'm going to go visit, you know, this place or that place, you can find somewhere here, a community that represents that country, and begin to explore their outings, go to their outings, explore their community. And that might serve to be kind of like a beta test to either confirm or deny if in fact this place is somewhere that you feel like you might connect to or with. So, you know, my dating advice is simple. You know, you can, you know, definitely you can go online and you can, you know, go to these different sites and probably have success. But I would caution people to not overlook the country that these women represent or are from. Because if you fall in love with the country, that's what's going to keep you, not the person. Because, you know, as great as relationships are, you know, unfortunately things happen. And hopefully that won't be the case. However, the women are the draw, but the culture is the keep. So I would say focus on the keep first. And that which is yours, that which you need to be connected to, it'll draw itself to you. So that's my take. That's my ramble on the whole dating and what I think is the most important element of dating differently, or, you know, dating someone who's foreign. And that's simply to go into the country that you feel speaks to you, and everything that you need and the people or the person that you want to encounter, they'll be there. And don't do it with any of the game and manipulation. You don't have to do any of that. Just go to the place and visit. And if it connects to you and speaks to you, you know, the person will be there to meet you. So in any event, that's my spiel. And, you know, tell me what you guys think. Sorry about the rambling. It was just like an impromptu thought, and I just kind of wanted to share what was on my heart. So that being said, fala com você mais tarde. It's your man Larry, the American Brazilian, saying no Deus jogador, Deus joga. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Até breve. É verdade.